Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon Ozirny. I am the head of youth services at the West Vancouver Memorial Library, and it is my great pleasure to be your host for this Foundation Signature Series event with Kazu Kibuishi. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that the library has its home on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, and in particular, recognize the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations. The West Van Memorial Library Foundation Signature Series is brought to you by the Foundation, of course, and our community supporters. We want to give a special thank you to Grosvenor and supporter Ki Zhu for contributing to this event. A little bit about our foundation. The West Vancouver Memorial Library Foundation believes that great libraries help build great communities. Donations to the foundation have supported the lab, where I am right now, Booktopia, a literary arts festival for young people, our Friday night concert series, and so much more. Now the foundation is giving back to the community. Thanks to many generous donations over the years, the Foundation Signature Series is helping us all through these challenging times. And it is so nice to have something like this to look forward to, and a bit of a bright spot on our calendars when so many of our other plans may have changed. We are also so grateful to Kids Books, our official bookseller and sponsor for the All Ages Signature Series events. Kids Books has curbside pickup available at both their locations. So if you want to order a book by Kazu, visit kidsbooks.ca to place your order online, and you can visit their store also in person in North Vancouver or Vancouver. A little bit about our format today. Very shortly, I will be welcoming Kazu on screen. We will be having some back and forth. I have some questions for him. You'll get to see him do some live drawing. And most importantly, we want your questions as well. The magnificent Sarah is monitoring the chat on both YouTube and Facebook. So as soon as you think of a question, type it in and we will get to as many as we possibly can. So now it is my very great pleasure to introduce you to Kazu Kibuishi. It is not often that I can say this in an introduction, but Kazu has a reputation for being one of the hardest working, most generous, kind person in both the industries of comics and children's books. In addition to creating stories that have shaped a generation, he is knee-deep in the Amulet universe. If you haven't read the 8 installments, you still have time before book 9 comes out. You also need to check out his other work, Copper, the Daisy Kutter series, the Flight Anthologies, which he edited, art directed, and did the cover art for. We are so lucky that he has taken time out of Amulet to spend an hour with us today. So please help me welcome Kazu Kibuishi. Oh. Kazu, you're here despite me sending you the wrong link for this event.
Yeah, we made it.
Thank you so much for being here. For these events, sort of our first question always is, how are you doing, and how is your family doing, and how have you been doing over the last few months?
Yeah, my family's good. The kids are, I think, watching Netflix right now, so I might have to go tell them to stop in a second, so that make sure the internet connection is pretty long. Forest, so the internet isn't the best. But it's been good. We've, you know, I'm like a lot of other authors in that our lifestyle hasn't changed all that much. Relative to a lot of our friends in different industries, you know, so production on Amulet never stopped. Really, the only thing that I had to do to transition to this was, like, Amy and I both had to really commit to homeschooling, as most parents have, and I was doing a lot to try to help other parents with their homeschooling, whether it's creating activity sheets or just doing things like little things like that in general, to help out. And so I took a little bit of time out of the books to work on those things, including like a PSA for mask wearing and things like that. Mm-hmm. And so beyond that, I've just been moving ahead on Amulet 9. That hasn't really changed. We've just been working on this book, and what seems like quite a long time, but we're getting to a pretty good place with it right now. I think it looks really good. I'm really happy with it.
And we had many questions about Amulet 9, which I will condense into just one question. First question is, how sick are you of being asked about Amulet 9?
I'm never sick of it, actually.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
I would be sad if people didn't ask.
Yeah.
For Amulet 9. That's the truth. And so I'm happy to tell them that we're getting through it. I did a lot. So number 9 is going to be very different than the other books in that this is the first one where I actually gave myself the time to put a lot of the preparation in to making it, whereas like a lot of the other books I had to roll right into one after another, and I was working so much I pretty much put myself in a hospital. And on this one I decided I have to find a way to be able to make one of these books without destroying myself. But I also wanted to make at the same time I also wanted to make the kind of book that I feel like I can make and not have to compromise. And so 9 should, even though 9's not going to be any it's not going to be much longer than any of the other books. It should feel like the longest book in the series. It should feel like the most things happened in it. Because I have a theory that comics are able to contain more information than just regular prose. So I feel like the pages of a comic book can contain more content than the pages of a novel. Because I think when you're working with prose, you kind of have to spread out a bit, unless you're using poetry or metaphor, and so I feel like with comics, there's so much space in there to put things in, and I'm trying to maximize that as much as I can. I feel like I haven't seen that, it hasn't been done since like the 60s. In like 70s, when like Jack Kirby's comics or something. I feel like in comics I haven't seen too many comics. Watchmen is actually a good example. I feel it's got a compression of information that I haven't seen in a long time. So I'm trying to make an attempt at that, and so that should be interesting for everyone to see. Maybe they'll hate it, and then I'll just go back.
It's amazing that you say that 9 will feel like more happens in any other book, because one of the and I'm deep into amulets. I read the series when it came out. I was reading each book as they came out, and the one thing I always wondered and wanted to ask you is just the amount of set changes you have in these books and different locations that the story goes to. Do you ever, or does your team ever, when they're actually working on a script or a story, kind of like hate past Kazu for writing in 28 different locations in a 210 page book?
I don't know. That's a question for Jason, I think.
Let's get Jason on. We need Jason's tell-all on the all the different outdoor locations.
Yeah, no, I think he really enjoys working on all the different locations, especially if there's enough story context that brings emotion into the scene. I think that it's a lot of fun to make new things all the time if there's a really good reason to make it. So if I'm writing something that feels like I'm just making the scene to make the scene happen, I think I could tell just by his lack of enthusiasm for painting it, and my own lack of enthusiasm for the sequence as I'm working on it, that we're probably going to scrap it. And we've scrapped many worlds and locations over and over and over again over the course of the years. It used to, I think, bother Jason earlier because it would mean he has to scrap a whole bunch of things he paints. But I think he got used to that being part of the process. And so, we just scrap things, and the scrapping actually makes every new thing that we do much better. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, the world building part of it is the fun part. That's being on the playground and just being able to enjoy the story. that part I could do all day. So honestly, if someone just had given me scripts to make stuff, I'd probably be able to pump out books at a ridiculous rate. It's the design of the experience and writing, like not just the story, but the way what the story signifies, what the reading experience signifies, and how that's designed. That part takes so long, and a lot of it is really just a tremendous amount of research on my part. So as long as all that research is done, all the front-loaded work that I have to do as a writer is done, the painting, the more preparation I do, the more fun it is to paint. And I'm noticing that Jason is having way more fun painting all the scenes that I knew I had a very clear picture for. So when I put it on paper, he's like, "Oh, I know exactly how to paint that." And I think that just the act of trying to show what he knows about what I'm writing, I think is very it's very cathartic. And so as a painter, I think it's fun for him. But if he could tell I have no idea where the story's going, he hates painting those. He's like, "Why am I painting this?" It's like I was writing it going, "Where am I going?"
Some of our viewers may not be familiar with all the work and all the hands that it takes to make a comic series on the level of Amulet. Can you talk a little bit about who's on your team and what they do, and sort of the group you have around you helping make these books come to life?
So currently, for Amulet 9, it's just Jason Kubuishi.
Yeah.
I've worked with for now almost 13 years. We've been together, and I think 12 years, almost 12 years actually. And let me see. And then Joey Hahn is our flatter, our color flatter. So it's just us three. It's Joey's flatting, which is to set the basic color onto the page, so that we could it traps all the colors into the lines and everything like that, and prepares the pages for Jason to paint. And then Jason goes in and paints all the details and adds the flourish and stuff, while I'm working on the script, there's no script, I just draw it. So I'm drawing, so I'm penciling, I'm writing, I'm penciling, inking, and doing like all the preparation work before the color is created. So it's just us three right now. There have been times where we've had staff that like up to 7 or 8 people on the staff, but a lot of times it's because we're in a crunch and we need help. And they were essential to get certain books done. Like Amulet 8 has a ton of people on it. That's because we needed to hire people. In the last month, we had to paint something like 70 to 80 pages in like 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks. So yeah.
And it's not just 70 to 80 pages, it's anywhere between 1 to 12 panels per page, so that you're looking at like hundreds of basically gallery worthy portraits.
Sometimes we have to do the paintings in like just a few minutes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's wild. And I think another question I wanted to ask you just about your team and your time. How do you find time to do all of this? Because I mentioned in my intro, you're known as someone who's very generous. You always take time to talk to people. You do these sorts of events even when you're on a deadline. Do you just have to, do you have a timetabling secret that you can share with us, or how do you fit all of this in?
No, so when I do my work, I just work fast.
Okay.
And so I think if there's a secret, then that's probably it. I just taught myself to draw quickly, and I'm constantly trying to find ways to make my drawings easier to do, like to simplify my design, the aesthetic of how I communicate emotion, action, and idea, and trying to. I think cartooning is about simplification. So the best cartoonists are the ones who need the least amount of lines. And so if you're a good designer, I think you can save time that way. And so I try to front load the work by preparing by designing things well and making sure that if I have to, so 'cause, for example, you know, the way I design Emily, I knew that I would have to draw this character hundreds of thousands, maybe a million times. So one of the things that I did early on with Amulet was to make sure that I didn't create characters with difficult shapes to draw. So nobody is built around a circle. So if you're an illustrator and somebody tells you you have to draw circles without the aid of a computer, it's really, really hard. This is why copper is so hard for me to draw. I have such a hard time drawing copper because he was actually designed in Flash, I think, originally. And so I was trying to replicate the way a machine aesthetic. And to have to draw that was just a nightmare. So Emily is all swooshy shapes, you know, she is all like flowy lines everywhere, and so is Trellis. Most of the characters, and other characters who are on the side are either ovals or triangles. Like Miskit is literally an oval, and Leon is literally a triangle. So yeah, I built it around design aesthetics that were easy for me to quickly put on the paper.
Yeah, you don't want to be giving Emily a blunt, perfect bob.
Yeah, well,
her hair is, you know what? I'm just making the connection that both Trellis and M have kind of similar hairstyles.
They do. Partly because I see them as they're in the same similar journey. So
yeah,
actually start looking like each other, because they're trying to help. They're both trying to help their families.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're both in, like, you know, they realize that they're beginning in a bad spot, and I think that by helping each other, they're able to overcome the problems that their families were facing. So Emily's going to help Trellis by helping her own family, and Trellis is helping Emily by helping his own family. And I think that that's just proves to be true in real life. So that's, and I guess it's neat to see them kind of, you know, become like, they almost look like each other over time, which is pretty neat because they look so different when we begin at the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's
you
cool.
know what? And we don't, it's something as readers, we don't even notice. So it's so interesting that you've kind of engineered this for yourself in a way that has absolutely no impact on the reading experience. Like a hack.
That's just one of those things that just happens, you know. Yeah. I think every artist and writer wishes they can say that they were in control of their work, but I don't feel that way. I think I'm much more of I'm just a steward for the story. You know, I think a good writer is that. I'll bet every writer that I know that I would consider a great writer that I've met has said the same kind of thing. You're really just setting your antennas out, and you're kind of allowing the story to form as naturally as it can. And I think that when you start trying to manipulate too much or trying to fit it within frameworks or schedules and things like that, I mean, that's part of life. You have to do that. But you know, the best at it are the ones who know how to allow for the most life to come into it, you know. And that I don't have a secret for that. that sometimes it's just, I'm just sitting around, you know, everyone's yelling at me for being a lazy bum. I'm used to it. It's like my entire life. That's how it's been. Everyone's like, Kazu, get this done, do this, do that, do that. Why are you such a bum? Why are you drawing cartoons? And I just sit there and I just try to drown out the noise. And then all of a sudden I'm like, that's it. I found it. I found the thing. And I go sit down and I make this thing, and everyone looks at it and they're like, whoa. That's so what, the whole time you've just been sitting around thinking? I go, I don't know if it's sitting around thinking so much as I was waiting. That's all. Yeah.
It's percolating. You've heard it here first. Kazu Kibuishi is not a bum. You mentioned when it comes to writing, are you somebody who sits down at a computer and writes a script, or you mentioned, you know, are you just drawing and then dialogue comes to you? Do you have a set process?
Yeah, so it's funny. I didn't go to college for art. I actually have a degree in film studies, and I specialized in screenwriting. And I'm not I haven't won very many awards in comics, but I was winning all these awards as a screenwriter. prior to doing this. So what's funny is every time I made a screenplay, it always bothered me that I couldn't really put the vision of what I wanted to see on paper. There was, I guess, the script is so limiting in terms of its ability to express setting, emotion, pace, that it's essentially a blueprint with no emotion in it. Well, very little emotion. You got to do it all through dialogue. And so one of the reasons I wanted to make graphic novels was that I wanted to bring that heart and emotion and the fun reading experience into just the script writing process. And so when I started working on Amulet, I threw the idea of doing a script out because I always saw it as a script, because this is the script, and so I don't pitch like the stories. I just pitch the concept of what's going to happen and the feeling that we're going to have. And I'm just going to put myself into the arena of the book and then find my way through. And I know that's like, that's the kind of thing that if you're a filmmaker, and I used to be a filmmaker, that was my previous life. I felt that it's really hard to do that type of thing on a set with a lot of different people who there's a lot of responsibilities. So the thing that comics affords me is to be able to do that. Like very rarely have I seen it done on film. And I think Hayao Miyazaki is one of those rare exceptions, because nobody knows where the movie's going when they work on his movies. They have no idea. And he doesn't either, or he does, but he doesn't know how to express it until it's on paper. And so he just draws his way to the end and everyone just follows. And that's why you get movies that feel like art, in my opinion. It feels like an artistic vision on screen, because the whole, you could feel the moment of discovery in the film. It's not like because if you script the moment of discovery, then you have to translate the moment of discovery, and now you're taking a photocopy of the moment of discovery, and so it doesn't feel like art. It's like the movie. I was talking to my assistant, talking to Jason about Fury Road, and I found that that's a really interesting thing, because they essentially, George Miller and crew made that movie like we make our graphic novels. So it's funny to see all the actors and people talk about it going, oh, that was a crazy experience, coming off of the project without seeing the final film, thinking that it was a disaster. They thought like the whole thing was disastrous. It was such a horrifying experience. It was so complicated and it seemed like nothing was going right. And yet you get this product that feels like everything went right. And but that's the process, and that's kind of the process of making a graphic novel. So like every year, it's funny, I'm very lucky to be with my team at Scholastic, because they're kind of used to my this process where everyone's like, hey, is he gonna get his book done? He's not getting it done. It's like nothing's happening. And I've heard, I think our graphic designer over there, Phil Falco, I think he's like, that's Kazu. It's like this every year. It's like this is what it is. This is it. And I appreciate that people understand that there's a process to it, to get it to the book to feel like when the reader reads it, it was almost like the first time that story was told.
It's exactly what it feels like. And I'm honestly jealous of people who can now sit down with all 8 books and just kind of binge them. Reading them as they came out each year was exciting. It was something to look forward to. But going back and reading all 8 over the course of like 2 days, especially, I don't know, something about doing it in the summertime, it's so immersive and immediate. And what you say about kind of being in the moment or being in the arena with the story, the reread, it was almost even better, which is a rare thing. So if anyone still needs to catch up, like this is the time to do it. I have one more Amulet 9 question. And then if you want to turn on your drawing cam, we can chat while you do that. Is there a release date for Amulet 9 or a release date-ish for Amulet 9?
It's been discussed, but I can't talk about it.
Perfect. Can you say what percentage you're done?
It's really hard to put a number on it. But if
you're a pro, you can just say, Shannon, no, I'm not telling you.
I actually like the math, because I'm trying to figure out how to be able to teach a lot of this stuff too, because I feel in some sense I'm part of a very new generation of comic artist, and writer. And one of the reasons why we don't have so many things like Amulet is that there weren't that many mentors, there weren't that many people willing to talk about process. Everyone just kept it a mystery, maybe because it was, you get more attention, I don't know. And I think that it'd be better if we just treat it like sports or something, because just sports science now, right?
Yeah.
It's all different types of things. And so I think that there's an element of those kinds of things that come into making a graphic novel. That said, the book itself, as far as like completed pages, we're not halfway yet. But as far as like in terms of the work that needs to be done to get us to the end, we're on the back stretch. We're on the final stretch. So it'll look like, if you looked at the book itself, it looks like we're like this. If this is the whole project, it looks like we're only this far right now. But in terms of the whole, if you actually knew how much goes into it, into like the preparation part of it, all the design work, figuring out who the characters are, designing the characters and making them look like they're not the first time I drew them, with all of that work that has to go into it, I think we're like actually really close to the end.
Yeah. It's almost like when people say you can write an essay in college the night before, if you've done all your research, pulled all your quotes, outlined it all. It's actually the process of doing the creation is pretty liberating, because you've set out those dots for yourself that you just have to connect.
That is exactly right. And I think that what I've noticed over the course of the past decade or so is that when the process seems mystifying to people, they believe that the process is only the thing they see. But I always try to tell people that you can't learn the magic tricks by watching the magic show.
Yeah.
If this is a magical thing, and it is to a lot of people, then the process of it is actually just a whole lot of work. And it's also, it's not the final product. So yeah, but what you're saying is exactly right.
It's like a combination of artistic and systems thinking almost, especially when you're working on something like a project the size of Amulet. It can't just happen. You need to systemize it in a way.
My friend Jorge Cham did a really great TED Talk. He's a comic artist, does PhDcomics.com. I think everyone should check it out. I think he's one of the smartest people I know, and I love Jorge and the things he thinks about. And he has a really good TED Talk about procrastination. And it stuck with me because I actually agree with it quite a bit, and I believe that I think his theory or thesis on procrastination is that it's just us trying to come up with the best possible solution, and spending as much time as possible thinking it through before having to act. Mm-hmm. So everyone, from the outside, people think, oh, this person's lazy. They're not thinking, they're not doing the work. They're not
producing in this moment. Yeah.
But they're actually just processing all of the potential ramifications of every decision that they're about to make. They're thinking it all through and just like kind of just mapping it all out, and then seeing like which decision should they make in the small moment where they have to make the decision. And I think that he believes that procrastination is actually a reflection of that. Not in every case, of course. There are people who just procrastinate because they forgot to work. That is true. But I think that for a lot of people who are working at a very high level in their craft or at whatever it is, I think the procrastination is them trying to come up with the best possible solution for something. It's kind of like what was that? The guy who saved us from going into nuclear war. The Russian guy in the little service station, when he saw like the blip on the radar. You know about this story? And thought it was just a technical glitch that said that the U.S. had shot like ballistic missiles, but he didn't believe that could be the case, and so he just sat it out. instead of reacting to the glitch. Can you imagine if he didn't have the fortitude to procrastinate in the moment? What we're living in today. So, I feel like those things, come into play when you write. And so I'm just used to people calling me lazy. In fact, you know what's funny? Like when people text me, I think your iPhone will autocorrect my name to lazy. I'm used to just getting texts that say, "Hey, how you doing, lazy?" And they're like, "Oh, that was an autocorrect."
But just looking at the publication dates of all the Amulet books is like empirical evidence against your laziness, because the pace at which they've come out, I think it's always the self-aware, lovely people who say that they're lazy or whatever, because that's not the case at all. But I love that idea of procrastination as just sort of this search for space, or like just taking a moment or moments in space. And I think especially for kids, and I know we have a lot of kids watching, there can always be this pressure on why are this activity that you're engaged in is not productive, or why are you procrastinating, or you're just sitting around doodling, or you're sitting around doing nothing. And that's a really important part of processing creative thinking and all of that.
Yeah, no, I always encourage people to daydream, when they're writing. That's really kind of the best way to write, because you're taking the pressure off of just the completion. Like, you're not forcing yourself to complete anything. You're taking time to think. And anything you can do to give yourself the time to think before you act, it's helpful for everybody, I think, in the long run. You're putting out something in the world where you've thought things through, and people over time will thank you for your contribution, for having stopped to think, and not try to go after the big money, or not be pressured by your own stress to finish something because you're afraid that you'll lose an opportunity or something like that. So that's something. Anytime I do these talks and stuff, I hope that if an artist or somebody is listening to me, I hope that that's something that take away, is to take your time. Take the time that you need to do the thing you got to do. You're in your gut is like the thing you got to do. And good things happen. It's always happened for me. Those things have happened. Like it's been my guiding, like compass in my life, is just this. It's kind of a conscious decision to think things through before making, and then finally making the best possible decision, based on the evidence in front of me. So that's what I'm doing. That's why Amulet 9 is taking a ton of time, everybody, because this is the end of this thing that I've been working on for 20 years. So it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm happy with where it's going, and I'm happy with the way that it's where it's decided to go, because I'm kind of, it's just a steward for it. So I'm happy for the readers, because they're going to get a great book. I'm excited about what comes next too.
Fantastic. We've had a couple requests for the drawing cam. Do you want to switch that on?
Stop talking.
Yeah. Oh, we're still going to talk, but.
Let's switch to the drawing cam. All right.
Oh, and now I need to look down to see the drawing cam so everybody can enjoy my eyelids. I have a few questions for you, Kazu, and then I'm going to start passing on some questions in addition to all the Amulet 9 questions that we have in the chat and that we got sent in advance. We were talking a little bit about, or you mentioned, that this is a now decades-long project with Amulet. And an experience I had rereading all of them is I almost was revisiting sensory memories that I had in like 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14 when I read the books for the first time. Do you have any feelings of nostalgia when you go back and read a certain book? Like, oh, that's the year my kid was born, or that's the year I was really into this kind of instant soup?
I don't know if nostalgia is the right word for it, for me, because so much work goes into it. It's kind of a painful experience to relive. And not in terms of like I didn't like the work, but a lot of times it's just I don't know. When I read the books, I try to extract myself from it and try to read it like a reader. So I don't know. My life is my life, I think, and my work isn't my life. So I treat them separately. So I don't really connect. I don't know, the experiences in the book with my life so much, except okay. So I do look at things like Amulet 4, and I remember how fun it was to work on that with the crew. We used to play Settlers of Catan like in the middle of the night, and it was just like pulling all-nighters on this thing to make it work. And I really liked the team that we had, when we were working on that. So and that goes for like about 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are fun days. I do remember that. And I do think about like when in a couple of the books, they were written and drawn like when I had my kids, and so I remember that this is the book when Junie arrived, and this is when Sophie arrived. So there is that, but yeah, I don't know, I don't get very nostalgic. I'll say that. I'm just glad to have it all behind me, the work, because it's been such a hard project.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to move on to the whatever I've got going on next. I'm always more excited about the future. I try not to sit around and reminisce about things in the past. I every day in my life I feel has gotten better than the previous one. And so I just look forward to the next day, and I think it's a better way to live than to try to hold on to the past.
Absolutely. There's M. One question that I thought was really great. So in the books, Miss Git is a beloved rabbit guide, sidekick, therapist at times. Was Miss Git always pink?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The one thing that I changed about him is how big he is. I don't know why I decided to make him like a man-sized. He's like a rabbit you win at the carnival. He's so big. But before he used to be this little doll, and now he's just this huge thing. Miss Git was always supposed to sound like a plumber, but look like a cute plush doll.
And the pop of pink is sometimes just really striking depending on where they are. It provides sometimes a humorous juxtaposition depending on what's going on.
Yeah, I wanted him to look like somebody who just, I think I can relate to him in some ways where he just seems like a nice cuddly guy, but he wants to be cool. Like he wants to be more than just a little pink doll. It's like me as a cartoonist, everyone, when I was younger, I remember all these kids telling me like, oh, you're not as good as at the other guys at drawing because you only draw cartoons. I heard that over and over again and I was like, that's fine. I'm not trying to compare. But like, I don't know why people thought cartoons weren't cool. I thought the cartoons were way cooler than drawing a bowl of fruit really, really well. But like, I don't know. I mean, people seem to be more obsessed with, turning themselves into a camera than actually expressing with the art that they're creating. So, but I mean, that was just me. I just thought, no, it would seem like it was just me. And then I realize now that I make things like Amulet, that it's not just me. It's also millions of other people. I think they've been thinking that too.
You would have been a hit at Lakeview Elementary School if you were drawing cartoons. We had a boy named Diego who was selling them at some point. So shout out to Diego. Diego might be watching. Who knows?
Oh.
Can I ask you a question? We have a question from the audience about how you hold your pen. Someone's wondering if you've always held your pen like that. And when you were young, did they make you, like in school, did they try and make you hold it in the quote unquote proper way?
They did. They tried.
Did they?
They tried. Yeah. Teachers got so mad at me. Oh man. Like I don't know if anybody hit me, but I feel like I do remember getting hit with a ruler a couple of times. like when I was like in kindergarten or something, where they're like, no, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, doing it this way, doing it this way. It just works for me. Right. And I feel that like it's kept me from having to deal with a lot of the health issues that I see a lot of cartoonists have, because I don't really grip my pen very tight. I mean, I'm very loose. Like I'm just really using my arm, you know, like I'm using the entire thing. I'm not using like when I hold a pen like this, it hurts. I don't know how people do it. Like there's just this muscle, the muscles here are so like there's hardly any muscle there. There's hardly anything to work with. So you're putting so much pressure on like just like a hair. Like it's like a muscle that's like just about as, you know, it's like a little bundle of hair.
Yeah, both my colleagues in the lab right now are like rethink are moving their pens around. You're totally right.
Yeah, so I think that we need to rethink the way we hold pencils and pens in an ergonomic way. You know, I think it can save a lot of you know, people medical bills and things like that. Other artists that I've seen who can draw a long time without dealing with pain and stuff, I've seen them draw like this. I've seen them draw like this. This is, you know, like this.
Wow.
And it's just more natural. So I don't know. I think people should do things the way they feel it makes sense, rather than you know, what is taught to be the right way. We're constantly in a work in progress. Everybody is. We're all work in progress, you know? So I think it's good to have that mentality that there are very few like completely tried and true authorities on anything.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think even the old folks who say that this is the way you got to do things, you know, I think that even they would like the younger generations to be brave enough to try to break out of it a little bit, you know, and try things a little bit different. Because if you do that, especially in art, you should always do that in art, because that's what art's about. Experimenting safely, to make mistakes safely. You can fail. The best art is usually of some kind of failure or perception. That we have a perception that it was a failure, but it ends up what we find out later is that what we perceive to be a failure was actually the real success, you know, and that changes the way we perceive a whole, you know, it could be everything. It could be how we perceive our reality. So yeah, I always encourage kids to try things a little bit differently. Don't necessarily try to get yourself on any track, because you're probably going to be disappointed on where it goes and takes you, because usually there's no set destination for tracks.
For some reason that I thought of like the Donkey Kong level where like you're in that underground mine shaft and the track just ends and you have to hop onto another one.
Oh yeah. That'll happen. So
Minecraft Mania, I believe the level is called.
Yeah. So I see a lot of people.
Minecraft Mania.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I remember this game, but I would encourage people to rather than, you know, fixate on the tracks, to think about, you know, getting a good minecart. And maybe that minecart could go off-road. You know, a little four-wheeler instead of a minecart that has to sit on rails. And why not take it off-road and go into the forest, go into the mountains, go discover something new? I feel like artists should always do that. And so I'm always dismayed when I hear from a lot of artists that, you know, oh, this didn't work out. You know, I didn't find success and things like that, because it's clear that they had locked themselves into a certain expectation for themselves. And so I would always just recommend people break out of that. So anyway, here's a drawing. So there's a sketch for you with the
Leon. Sorry.
And
love my Leon.
I'll show you guys how I draw my comics. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. What can we do? Since we've been talking about Trellis and Emily, I'll just use them as the characters in this scene. But yeah, it's a very simple process, but it's very complicated to execute, over time. It just takes practice. It's a bit like playing basketball or any sport. You can dribble a basketball, but mastering it takes a long, long time. So when I make my comics, I have a very simple set of steps. I begin by scripting by drawing. So this is how I do that. Okay, so let's say what's today's date, Shannon?
August 13th.
Okay, so let's say, well, I'm just going to put the date here, and I'm going to do a scene, and I'm going to let's say I'm going to put let's put trellis in here.
I almost booed. I know I shouldn't take a side, but I mean, trellis has a journey, but boo.
Oh, I can change it up to somebody else.
No, it's fine. Yeah, you know what, Kazu, my thing for Leon is in full force, but we're gonna go with trellis.
No. I need another character. So
I love my Leon. He gives me Robin Hood vibes.
Yes, you must have you must have been one of the many people who had a crush on Robin.
You know what? No comment, Kazu, because I'm at work. but perhaps.
He is a handsome dude.
He's handsome. He's charismatic. He's decisive. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. So let's get Leon in here.
Look at those eyebrows.
So, okay. So what I'll do is I'll draw the characters, and then I have them talk to each other by writing lines of text like this. I mean, not lines, but these would be words.
Yeah.
And that would take me too long here to really do that. So I'm just going to say that this is what they're saying. All right. And let's say what scene are they going to be in? Maybe we'll just put them. Let's just put them in a boat. So let's say I need to sketch the boat. So I'm going to put some concept art for the boat. Just designing this is basic boat here. And go, okay, this is what the boat's going to look like. So, usually it's like it'll be a fancy thing. Okay, you know what? Let's make it a little fancy. We'll put some wheels on the boat for whatever reason. This is a very unique boat now. Okay. All right, so here we got the boat, and we got the characters, and so now, let's say I actually do this many times. Like I'll write the scene like this, over and over and over again until I feel like I have a good scene. Like I have rehearsed the scene into a place where it has all the subtext that I want. It has it feels natural, that the characters are talking naturally, that there's compelling stuff for me to draw. It's compelling to look at and read, and it doesn't stop the reading experience. And if it does that, and I just read it and I go, oh, that sounds like fun, that's cool. Okay, then I say, okay, this is the draft I'm going to draw now. So then I go into thumbnails, and usually I actually do 4 pages to a sheet of paper, but I'm going to do 2 so you guys can see it, because when I draw my thumbnails, they're like the size of my thumb. So,
and thumbnails are different than panels, correct?
Yeah. Well. So here's the thumbnail. Okay, this is going to be a big thumbnail. Usually, like I said, but you know what? I'll do 4. Let's just do it the right way, just so I'm not confusing anybody. Okay. So what I do is I put 4 pages.
Okay.
Onto one of these sheets. Okay. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. Okay. And then I look at this and I go, this is the scene that I want. Okay. How do I organize it in here now to make it a compelling read? And so I now start, designing the panel layouts. Okay. And sometimes if I know exactly what happens and I have like a very specific way of doing things, and then I'll revolve it around that. In this case, since I don't know, I have just this boat, this empty boat, and the two characters. I'm just gonna design the story around the panels. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put panels in here that look like they'll work. Okay. And I have a few rules that I follow for myself that nobody else needs to do this, but from my graphic design background, it's just kind of carried over into this. And I make sure that the gutters for the panels don't go into other gutters. Mm. So whenever there's if I want to make sure that in the middle of the two pages, when you're reading the book, I don't want people to accidentally move over here. Yeah. So my job is to guide them down this one, like from here to here to here to here to here to here. Okay.
You're plotting the course for us, so it's effortless. And we don't even have to think about this as readers.
Yeah. And so like a lot of people will try to bring film language into the comic. Okay. And they'll say, okay, we're going to make sure we don't do shot. When we do shot, reverse shot, we got to match on action. Match on action means if Trellis is on the left and Leon is on the right, that they stay that way in orientation on film. On film, because it's a sequence of images that you're seeing over and over again on top of each other, it's disorienting when they switch positions. Mm-hmm. Not in a comic. In a comic, it doesn't matter because you're seeing them both at the same time. So you're not disorienting anybody. So let's say they're in the boat now, and so we have Leon here and we have Trellis here, and they're talking because I'm just porting over the dialogue I have here over here, and they're talking. They're probably stranded somewhere, and then maybe I have Trellis give like this big he's going to give like a big speech in this bubble. Okay.
And this is so fascinating to see too, especially I think some adults who maybe don't have a full appreciation for the level of design and thoughtfulness and critical thinking that goes into not only producing comics, but reading them as well. And you've got so many different skills and competencies, not to sound like the BC educational curriculum right now at work here. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I really liked the idea of doing comics. Prior to this, I worked in architecture. I worked, the last job I had, I was directing a movie at Disney. And I was essentially a generalist everywhere I went. I liked doing everything, a little bit of everything. And I tended to get pretty good at all the little skills and stuff, and I enjoyed it. I loved it a lot. But a lot of the times in a lot of those professions, it was better for me to just play a very specific role, very specific position. When I looked at making a graphic novel, it seemed to reward the generalist. Like, because like in my opinion, like the best comic strips were the ones that were drawn by the people who wrote them. So, whether it's like Calvin and Hobbes or Peanuts or whatever it was, it's usually a writer artist, and it was a synthesis of two very different and very difficult disciplines, of writing and drawing. And I looked at graphic novels and I saw all of that happening, where it's like you take graphic design, you take the writing, you take the illustration, you take graphic design, you take, and now like I didn't even realize public speaking would be a thing. So like what you guys are watching me do right now, this is something you got to train to do, because I was a speaker before I started this. People didn't know I even said words. They just assumed I'm the quiet guy in the corner who can draw and they can hire to draw stuff. That was me. But I had to step it up. I realized that I have to know how to speak to people, and that became a new skill that I would have to add to all of this. And so comics is a great place to learn where you feel you might fit. So it's like a really good exploration to see what it is that you feel your greatest strengths are. And then so when you go back into the workforce, not to say that this couldn't be a job, it can be, but when you're going back into the workforce, you have a better picture of like, not only what you do best, but also how to work with others, because you know what they do now. Yeah. And I think that comics is a really great way to train for something like that.
It's sort of like the ultimate interdisciplinary kind of project or endeavor you can embark upon. So I know, kids in grade 3, 4, 5, 6 who are working on comic books or comic strips, the amount of kind of different wells of knowledge they're pulling from to make a final product is actually really impressive.
Significant, yes. Yeah. And they're doing it enthusiastically is what's really important, because you can push somebody to learn something, but they won't really retain it unless they brought something, they brought their own enthusiasm to the table. And it's comics. I think people just have this, there's like an unconditional love for the comics format. And maybe it's because they loved it when they were kids. So it's like seeing your parents or something. Cartoon. When you see Snoopy, it feels like family.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think, yeah, I mean, cartoons are great. I mean, we can go on all day about that. But,
yeah.
But yeah,
We've actually got just a couple minutes left, so I will let you, before we do a book draw, I will let you sort of wrap up what you were talking about in terms of your thumbnails and storyboard.
So anyway, what you're here is like, this is just an example of taking what I have here and then moving it over here and then putting them in the frames a certain way. I actually didn't have a really good example of reversing the reverse shot idea, but I did what I do have here is using the boat to lead you down the page, and using like his ears to move you this way too. So like tiny little designs like that can help you. Like I don't really have anything good. Maybe I could have used his ear to move you up there. But I'm looking for like little cues that can move you through the page the way I think you should naturally flow on the page. So it should go like this. This should be the flow.
Yeah.
Right. And it should feel like that. So that's my path, and I'm designing illustrations around the path. So when I do that, I'm also helping people who have a hard time reading.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to read something before, but nobody made it fun for them yet. And that's really what it comes down to. Because if they know what they're going to get out of a book, they'll be more than willing to get into a book.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I think Amulet works out really well for reluctant readers. And I don't believe that. I mean, and people say, oh, it's the graphic novel format. I don't believe that. I actually think it's just how you use the format, because like Wimpy Kid is fantastic in the same way. And anything Dave Pilkey does is fantastic in the same way. Both those guys think about this stuff in a pretty high level, I think. I mean, when I look at the book. Oh, by the way, Amy, you're in the camera, just so you know.
Hi, Amy.
Right now. But yeah, so that's essentially how I make a book. And those are some of the things I think about. There's a lot more, but it would take us hours. I could speak for hours.
Thank you for sharing that. Again, it's something that we as a reader don't even notice, but if it was done poorly, we sure would notice. So that's the point.
That's right.
All right, so we are going to do a quick draw for 3 kids' books gift certificates, which can be used both in-store and online. Kazu, I need you to choose a number for me between 1 and 60. Any number.
1 and 60. Let's see. How about 35?
35. All right, so number 35 is Sam. Sam, if you are the Sam who gets an email or a phone call, you're the winner. If you are a different Sam who does not get a phone call, you have a lovely, dependable, solid name, but you are not our winner. Kazu, can you choose another number between 1 and 60?
1 and 60. Let's go with 7.
7. Okay, that is Raul. Again, if you are the Raul who receives an email from me within the next 2 hours, congratulations. One more time, Kazu, between 1 and 60.
55.
55. All right. We've got, you think counting would be easier for a librarian, but no. Chris, nope, that was the wrong one. Sorry if your name started with that sound. Gina. Gina, number 55, the Gina who received an email from me in a couple hours. Kazu, I'm so sorry that's the end of our time together. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Your time is very precious, and we're really grateful that you took it. I just want to thank the West Vancouver Memorial Library Foundation, of course, for putting on this event for us. We really want to hear your thoughts on the event, what it meant to you, what you took away. You can reach us at the email address that will be on the end slide for this video, and it will also be in the video description. And you can also check out more about the library and the Signature series at wvml.ca/signature. Kazu, thank you again. It was lovely talking to you, and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for